Okay, peace, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Right now, it's Sister Faith and I. Sister Larissa may be joining, but we don't know yet. So, we're just gonna get into a brief reflection of Naturally Beautiful. We started reading chapter 12, just the first two pages, 94 and 95. Sister Faith, did you want to start us off with reflections, or did you want me to start us off?
I'll actually start with the reflection. No, you go ahead, sis. You go ahead.
Okay, so let's see where to start. I think, well, I was listening to, I know I'm going to say it wrong. Tao, I have to look at it to be able to say it, but Tao Te Ching, I know I'm saying it all wrong. But I did send the link to you and Sister Larez yesterday. And so
Yes, ma'am.
I will post a link in the episode notes because I know I'm saying it wrong, but it's Tao Te Ching or something. I don't know. But I know that's wrong. I think it's actually like they pronounce it like with a D. But anywho, I was listening to a video specifically by Wayne Dyer. And honestly, when I first was listening to it, I was so bored with it. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to sit here and listen to this for an hour. And I think it was like an hour, 15 minutes. And then over time, I started enjoying it. But I'm sharing that because there was when Sister Ava here is speaking on the things that we've been through and basically focusing on those things, but the words that she uses is the last sentence of the long first paragraph. She ceases to kick against circumstances, but begins to use them as aids to her own rapid progress and as a means of discovering the hidden power and possibility within herself. There was something in there, and I'm gonna paraphrase because I don't want to spend too much time looking up what he said. But there was one of the things that he said, and basically this practice is all about getting rid of habits and creating new habits for yourself. And basically, he was saying that when you live in this way, he didn't say that, but I don't know how to say the Tao Tang Dang or Ching thing. Please
Yes,
forgive
ma'am.
me. Whoever practices this, please forgive me. But he was saying that basically we don't focus on our circumstances. And I'm reading a separate book, The Law of Recognition by Mike Murdoch, and he says the last chapter that I read speaks on being a captive or being a deliverer. And those who follow God are deliverers. They're not captive. So that means that they're not focused on their, I think he said, experiences. You're not focused on your experiences, but basically that you're somebody who's always forward looking. And so that's what I got out of this chapter, because I think part of what Sister Ava is saying, that we get stuck. She said women only begin to be a woman when she ceases to whine and revile, and commences to search for the hidden justice, which regulates her life as she adapts her mind to that regulating factor. So that really sticks out to me, because I realized for myself within this year and a half that I need to be focused more forward thinking, and not more so like now, or especially not in the past. So that's what sticks out to me.
Yes, ma'am. For me, I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast that I was reading The Mastery of Self, and I actually put it down, but I picked it back up, and now I'm reading it again. And he mentions about being present, and that also stood out to me when Sister Dr. Ava mentions that it's like, okay, we have to be present, but we can say that we're present or living in present time, but really, okay, I'm going to read an example that he mentions from the book. Well, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he pretty much mentions there was a grandmother, and she was teaching her son, well, not teaching her son, she was feeding her son like lunch or dinner or something of that nature. And he didn't want to finish all of his food. So, to make a long story short, she pretty much gave him an ultimatum: either go eat the food or you're going to get in trouble or something like that. So then in his subconscious mind, she said that it's a sin to not eat all of your food. So as he grew older, his grandmother wasn't present anymore, but he was still living in that time, and he applied it to situations, and that's called in the book he calls it domestication. So I think that in order for us to really live in present time, we have to be able to recognize the fact that we aren't in present time, and understand and know that, okay, I'm acting out this engram, or I'm acting out this emotion, because if we're not able to recognize that, I don't think that we'll even be able to be in present time. And when Sister Dr. Ava, when she mentions when she says that as modern women, we must be especially mindful and watchful for the traps that our minds will set for us because of some negative experience we had with a predatory male, which will prevent us from experiencing the joy of being a woman. So when we have gone through whatever it is that we've gone through, and we keep that in our minds, it will prevent us from living in present time. But if we don't know that we're not living in present time, if we're unable to recognize the fact that we aren't living in present time, we'll continue to live in whatever situation or circumstance that it was. I'm not entirely sure how we can get to that point of being present and constantly being present, but I do know that being able to recognize that we aren't being present is a start.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Definitely like being aware, because a lot of times we just begin to exist and not live. I found one of the points, and
Yes, ma'am.
he says always, this person always confronts. He doesn't say this person, but always confronts difficulties. He never experiences them. And so like I know what he's saying has to be true, because like there's more confirmation in this law of recognition. Completely different man who's writing about this using different words, but he's saying that we're not focused on our experiences, but we need to be aware. Like you're saying, we need to be aware of our experiences, and that's part of the problem. um Anything else for these two chapters? I mean, this first two pages of the chapter.
Mm, no, ma'am. I think that's it for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So inshallah
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
pick up the full chapter with Sister Lorez. Um,
Okay.
so let's get into courting a lie. So for today, um, my question for courting a lie is based on learning. So my question is as I'm filling in space was as I was finding the question, how open are
Yes, ma'am.
you? How open are you when someone introduces you to something new?
I would say for me, it depends on what it is. But for the most part, like overall, I would say that I'm open because I like learning different things, and I'm never the type of person, or I haven't been the type of person to just shut something off just because it's something I haven't heard of or something of that nature. And plus, the minister, he just pretty much confirmed that it's a good thing to be that way, because he says you can learn from anybody, and and that's true. I can learn from my son. He's 3, so, and I have learned from him. So I'm not closed off to learning new things or experiencing something new. I think that's the best way to learn, just not to be closed off from new information.
Yes, ma'am. I see Sister Lorez is joining. So,
Praise be to Allah.
yeah, praise be to Allah. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Lorez.
Assalamu
Walaikum
alaikum.
salam. Wait, let me get my.
So
There we go.
while you're joining us, I'm gonna start answering the question, and I'm gonna repeat the question and start answering the question to give you time to get up to speed to where we are. Um, and so we're on courting a lie, and the question is, excuse me, because I switched screens. Okay, how open are you when someone introduces you to something new? So Sister Faith just shared her answer. And so, in relationship to what Sister Faith just shared, it reminded me because she started speaking about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and how we can learn from anybody. but it reminded me of a university. And I wanted to share, and I don't actually, I pulled up the wrong document. So, anywho, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we can, he spoke on university. And here we go. I found it. He said, you can have a university under a tree as long as you are teaching subjects pertaining to the universe. So basically, it means that we can learn about anything, and we can learn about we can learn anywhere, because especially when we look at the world, in the state that we are now with COVID-19, and just how people are learning virtually, and like that has been a struggle for a lot of people. But basically, we put limitations on how we can learn and where we can learn. So I wanted to share that, just in reference to Sister Faith, you raising the minister saying we can learn from anywhere, but given a perspective of we can also learn anywhere. And I really wanted to ask this question because I noticed something in myself yesterday. And Sister Faith, my before yesterday, my answer would have been like, yeah, I think I'm pretty open. I think I want to learn different things, and I'm willing to learn from different people. But I had to catch myself because I was doing one of my online classes, and when we got to the habit module, and they sent us the link of what I was just mentioning, and I'm listening, so I'm like, this man sounds so boring. And I'm just like, I just can't listen. But since I had to listen to him for an hour and I had to write about it, I couldn't just watch it and go to the next module. I actually had to write about it to prove that I watched it. So I was like, okay, let me listen to what this man is saying. So like the first 5 minutes, I did not listen to him because I just couldn't. And when I started listening, I said, wow, like he's teaching. And I was like, and he has like this monotone voice. But as I began to love what he was saying, his voice didn't bother me. It was so calm. It was so like peaceful. It sounded like he was at peace. And here I am. Like, can this be over? And as I started listening to his words, I was like really self-reflecting and checking myself. And it's actually the video that I sent to both of y'all. But I started checking myself. And then I realized, because I looked up his name. I realized that somebody earlier this week sent me one of his videos. And I clicked on it. And because of his voice, I clicked it out of it. But guess what? I went back to watch that video. And so I wanted to ask that. Well, let me not tell why I wanted to ask that. But I had to check myself. So in the past I would have said yes, but last night taught me no, I'm not. But I need to be, and I want to be, because this just gave me a whole new perspective, and it's in alignment with something that I'm already studying, and it's going to help me because now I'm already digging to learn more in relationship and connection to the teaching. So, Sister Larez, you need me to repeat the question? Okay, so the question is, how open are you when someone introduces you to something new?
Well, I would like to think that I'm open, and I guess it depends on what the new is. And of course, with what you just said, we have to be mindful of how we approach things. So we have to be in that positive mindset to want to learn something new. And I'm always eager to learn. I'm just one of those people where I like to learn. And then once I learn it, I like to be able to pass it on and teach it to someone else and give them what I've received. So I think I'm pretty open to learning something new.
Yes, Sister Larez. And that part that you just said about learning something new and then teaching and passing it on to someone else is so important. Um, just sharing a note that my teacher shared in this class. He said, I hope I can find it really quick. I know it's at the bottom here, but he talks about how when you teaching also happens every time you share yourself. So he was saying that when you teach, you should teach from a place of authenticity, authenticity. What? How am I talking tonight? And he was also saying that when you teach something, when you learn something, you go teach. And that's how, I can't find his exact words right now, but basically saying that in teaching something, that's how you become a master of something, because it's not just like you're gonna sit there and learn it, but when you go then share it with somebody, that's like you really practicing what you're learning. So I think that's very powerful. But the reason why I want to ask that question, because again, I was checking myself on it yesterday, but I not only that, but I realized that it wasn't even necessarily the information, it was the sound of his voice. And I was like, and I just have to be, I can't be judgmental. I can't judge a book by its cover. Let me listen to what this man has to say and let me get over if it sounds monotone. Because if I just listen to it, I may enjoy it. And it also just had me think about the minister. You know, every time we watch him, every time he goes somewhere else, he always says, I'm inspired by what I just watched. I learned from all of you. And like the minister is saying that. So it just realized that it made me realize I need to humble myself. And I put that question, recording a lie, because I think that's how we truly court a lie, by studying the people that he presents in front of us, because this reason came to us for a reason. So any other comments on that?
I'm actually experiencing that now. I won't name any names because it just wouldn't be appropriate. So I am trying to get past how the person speaks and the antics that they use to present the information. And it's vital information. It's information that I can use. So it's just me getting past all of that, to focus on what they're giving me. So I definitely understand that part. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you for adding that, Sister Larissa, because that transparency is what's going to allow us to grow and humble us and get outside of ourselves and just accept how people present themselves.
Exactly.
So, for our next portion, maintaining peace, I sent this to you all probably like a month ago at this point. Um, so I'm definitely going to read it to y'all. But I wanted to talk about this post that I saw, and I'm going to keep this person anonymous. But I want to talk about it because I think it's very timely, and I'm actually happy that we didn't speak about it in previous weeks, because I think what the minister said on Saturday also just puts light to this instance. So um I stopped. Let me present, actually, because it's a lot of words. Can y'all see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I stopped being adamant about saying I don't have a problem with people. I know I have a problem with me. I've had situations where a person, for reasons unbeknownst to me, didn't like me, and for whatever be the bigger person. Reasons when speaking concerning the person, I'd always have to express how much I don't have a problem with them. But at this juncture in my self love journey, nah. If you don't like me, I don't like you either. We can skip that part. that need to that need to overexpress that I didn't that need to overexpress that I didn't have a problem with said person was really an indirect plea for them to drop their mysterious issue with me. A little demeaning to myself. Nah, we ain't on that. So my question is there any parts of this that you agree with, and why? And is there any parts that you disagree with, and why?
So go ahead, Sister
Go
Larissa.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I recall seeing this post, and initially when I seen it, I was like, heart, love, yes, I'm so feeling it. But today, because I have had to be in a situation where it's like, okay, this person is toxic and I just need to stay away. It isn't necessarily because of them, but it's something that I have to work on within myself in order to get to a position to where it's like, I bring my own aura, I bring my own vibe. And if I'm around you, I'm not going to allow you to disturb me. If you don't like me, that's something that you have to work on, because I don't care. Like, if you don't like me, fine. I'm not going to go out of my way and be like, oh, well, I don't like you either. I think that when we start returning that energy, then we're taking away from ourselves instead of adding to ourselves. Now, I do think that it's wise of us to refrain from people who we know that's just constantly negative, or just bitter, whatever the case may be. If they're always that way, then okay, you know what, that's, you're not good for me, and I'm sorry. I try to give you words of encouragement, I try to build you up, but it's just not working out. So in order to protect myself, I have to stay away from you. But I wouldn't, like, now today, after experiencing all of what I've been experiencing, I wouldn't go as far as to say, well, if you don't like me, I don't like you either. That's just a bit it's bringing to mind what Brother Nuri said. We, instead of forgiving people, we treat people how they treat us instead of treating people how we want to be treated. And I'm not saying, okay, well, continue. If this person is mean to me, then be around them. No, but remove yourself from the situation, but you don't have to get on the same level as them. It's just no point.
Thank you for sharing.
I also recall reading this post, and the first thing came to my mind was someone that I had worked with a few years ago didn't like me. And there was always an issue with she and I. One minute we'd be fine, the next minute, blah. And I just didn't understand why the situation always had to go from calm to 10. So I asked her. I said, well, let me ask her, because I may have did something to her that I wasn't aware of. So I wanted to set the record straight and ask, why you don't like me? Have I done something to you? And I promise you, after the response that she gave me, I will never waste my time asking somebody that again. Like, I was just really floored at the response that I got, because it was so childish. It was one of those where you think you better than somebody. Like, really? Mm-hmm. So I've learned that people are going to be who they are. And when they show you who they are, and it's not something that you're comfortable with, then it's just best to walk away. Mm-hmm. Just leave it alone and let it be what it is for them, because it don't have nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep myself out of it and away from it and move on with my life. Because trust me, that's what they going to do, behaving that way. They still going to move on with them, with their life. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you both for sharing. I the first part for me around, I said the first part used to be part of me. The second paragraph, around, like, I would go places where I knew there was going to be somebody who I felt like didn't necessarily like me. But we know when people don't like us. And I wouldn't say that I necessarily try to get this person to like me, or like be the bigger person in that way. Because it sounded like to me like this person would like try to get this person to like them or whatever. But I would say for me, I would just go spaces where I knew people would be there that didn't like me. And really, it just doesn't serve you. And I just noticed, like, why am I doing that? Like, I know somebody who likes me invited me to a space like this, but I knew other people was going to be there that don't like me. And so all it does is just, like, made me feel uncomfortable. And it just, like, in my mind, why am I here, even though somebody who liked me invited me here? And initially, I just, would just not pay attention to that person. But then, like, in a moment, you'll look over and that person just, like, giving you stank looks. And it's like, dang, I'm not here for you. You me. But what it did was make me feel like that they had a problem, whatever it was, and I didn't have a problem with them, and I don't even know what the problem could be. But it made me feel like I was going to places where I was being tolerated, because obviously this person didn't like me, wanted to say something. But there were other people there who wanted to celebrate me, and not celebrate me like I was there for them, or that I did anything good, but that meaning that I also wanted to celebrate the people who I was around. So like in this type of environment that I was in, I felt like everybody who was there, even the people I didn't know, they was like, "Hey girl, can I hug you?" I was like, "Yeah." We didn't even know each other. It was like we all wanted to celebrate and love on each other, and it just felt good. But I can't remember where I read this, but I read it in multiple spaces where it says, "Go places where people will celebrate you." And it probably also mentions this in the law of recognition book, but we are to go places where we are celebrated, not where we are tolerated. And so to me, I think that it cheapens who we are when we do that. But I'm not in a space of, and I don't think I've ever been in a space of, if you don't like me, then I don't like you. Because it's like, who am I to not like you? And you didn't do anything to me. It's just, I'll be honest, I just don't like the fact that you don't like me for no reason. That'd be my problem. Unless you actually did something to me, or did something to someone else that I love or something, then it doesn't bother me. But that's pretty much my take on that. um Oh, that was the bottom part that I meant. The second paragraph and the last paragraph go together. This person wanted to express themselves. I don't feel like I ever wanted to express myself, but I did necessarily just feel like if I just be myself, this person will eventually like me. But that was wrong thinking too. If somebody don't like you, they don't like you. It don't matter. Any other thoughts?
This reminds me of Sister Dr. Ava. I was trying to find the chapter, but when she says that we'll be insecure as women, or having insecurities when we will be envious of other women when we insecure within ourselves. And
Mm,
really, that's just what I think about now. It's like,
mm-hmm.
if you don't have a valid reason, like if I didn't, the minister said in the lecture, like when he was talking about his wife, he said, if I go over and spill some grape juice on it and I say sorry, and I mess up her blouse or I mess up her garment, that's not, that's not really doing anything. That's just apologizing. But if I offer her money and get it cleaned up, and if it can't get cleaned, I buy her a new one, then that's pretty much serving her justice. But if you have a, like, so in that instance, if you have a reason as to why you don't like me, it's just something like we've never even really had an interaction. It's you, and it's flat out you. Like, it's just
Mm-hmm.
who you are. You going off of how you feel about me, and the minister
Mm-hmm.
spoke about that too. So yeah, I just, yeah, that's
Yes,
all I
ma'am.
wanted to add.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up because how sometimes we could be in this. Sister Larez, did you have anything else? Okay. I wanted to bring it up because sometimes we could be so focused on other people liking us, but really, it ain't about other people liking us. We are not that significant. Like, we are really insignificant when it comes to this area. The only significance that I believe that we have is when we're doing God's work. I think that's the only thing that makes us significant. Um, and so I think it's just the wrong focus. But I also want to bring it up because from one side of thinking about people not liking us, and then the other side of like, then we want to match where people are. But that is, we should not be trying to match other people in that light of like just feeding the fire. We should be like, for anything, trying to reverse that, or just not putting our attention on that. But the minister's words, in which, please y'all remind me, so this could be put in, so this audio could be put into this episode. But the minister talked about how he doesn't focus on anybody not liking him. I'm paraphrasing, that's why we're gonna put his words in here. But he don't focus on anybody not liking him. He doesn't focus on anything that somebody has said about him. And even when former President Obama critiqued him on the Million Man March, he told him thank you. But he could have took that in a different light. But he said, he was speaking on how the enemy, that's what they want us to do. They want us to feed on on basically like what we say about the negative things we say about each other. They want to focus the attention on that instead of us uniting with one another. So I thought it was more important to raise this, as the next opportunity that we would get to speak about this, just because for us to remember that it's not about people liking us, it's about doing God's work. And it's about, at the end of the day, we just need to unite. And I think that that really relates to maintaining peace. So anything else?
Yes, ma'am. I think that also plays into when we are focused on doing God's work, and sometimes we can get a little distracted by what somebody might say about, what we're doing or how we're doing it, or how we're presenting ourselves, when we're just being who we are and who Allah allowed us to be, and what He allowed us and gave us permission to do. And so when we don't focus on those outside forces with people, then I think we do better, not only just getting connected with Allah, but being able to carry out what that assignment is that He has us to do.
Oh, I'm muted. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. So that concludes maintaining peace. Thank you for concluding that, Sister Loretta.
Remember the Million Man March.
Yes, sir.
It took all of us working together to make that great, great day. That's a template
Yes.
for how we can do what we need to do.
Come on.
Reverend Jackson was not with the march at first, bless his heart,
Yes, sir.
but he finally came.
Yes, sir.
And I was so happy because he was one of the first ones I wrote a letter to, telling him I wanted him by my side with the Million Man March.
Yes, sir.
I wrote a letter to Imam Warithuddin Muhammad,
Yes, sir.
asked him come stand with me. He didn't come. Reverend Jackson came. In my hotel suite, Reverend Jackson asked me, Farrakhan, how long can I speak? I said, Reverend Jackson, I can't give you any time. You speak until you finish what you have to say.
Yes, sir.
Ain't no Negro gonna do that.
No, sir.
In fact, when they invited me to speak, they gave me a minute.
Yes, sir.
Yes, they did.
Sir.
I took 5 extra.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
And they were trying to pull my coat to sit me down.
Wow, sir.
And in those 6 minutes, the Washington Post said, my speech that day on the 20th anniversary of the March on Washington was the speech that carried the day.
Yes, sir.
Look, beloved, we can do it, but we got to do it together.
Yes, sir.
The Million Man March, you have never seen so many Black women at a Million Man March. This dais was full of Black women that loved what we were trying to do. Among them was Mrs. Betty Shabazz, Brother Malcolm's wife. You may not know this, but the FBI had planned for Kabila to be in trouble. A plot, they said, that she was involved with a Jewish white man to kill Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
And the FBI came to my door in Chicago
Yes, sir.
and told me that at 11 o'clock there'll be a press conference. They're announcing something about an assassination attempt on Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
When we turned the thing on at 11, it was my sister, Kabila Shabazz, with this Caucasian. And then they naturally now they wanting me to go crazy.
Yes, sir.
I did.
Hmm.
We contacted Betty
Come
Shabazz.
on. Mhm.
I don't believe that her daughter meant me no harm.
Yes, sir.
We raised money
Yes, sir.
for Kubila,
Yes, sir.
Betty, and I think Bob was there at the Apollo Theater in New York.
Come on.
We stood together.
Yes, sir.
White folks went crazy
Yes, sir.
because they love it when you hate one another.
That's right.
They love to feed your beefs. Not with me.
Come on.
You don't hear me talking about nobody that's
right.
black that's talking against me.
That's right.
No, I don't.
That's right.
I can take it if it's coming from you.
Yes, sir.
Because I know you only speaking because you don't know.
Yes, sir.
And I accept that. And you know, when you love somebody and they do things that injure you, what do? See, you love Jesus?
Come on. Mhm.
You do?
Come on, dear minister.
I do too.
Yes, sir.
So I live Jesus.
Yes, sir.
You do?
You hear me? What I
Yes,
say?
sir.
Yes, sir.
When they hit me, you don't see me hitting them back.
No, sir.
I give you another cheek. Go ahead, baby.
Yes, sir.
Because in the end, I'm going to win you.
That's right, sir.
I'm going to get you for the sake of God and the truth.
So now we're gonna move on to come on, sis.
All right, now, come on, sis. So for this segment, what I had, it's actually kind of along the lines of when Sister Dr. Ava says in chapter 12, when she mentions when we establish and maintain a harmonious relationship. So I think that as women, or just as people in general, we have this idea of wanting something and not being consistent. So my question is, are you consistent in the area that you want to change in your life? And if not, why?
I just thought, no. Just keeping it real. And my answer for why is because of Destiny. Destiny gets in her own way. It ain't got nothing to do with anybody else. And even when it do, Wayne Dyer in the video that somebody sent me, he was just on principle one, and he was on like 30 minutes. But he was talking about how, can you just say that it's nobody's fault, that it's just your fault? And everybody in the audience started laughing. He's like, I know it's hard. And he said, and I know it's everybody's fault. He said, because everybody contributed in some way, and it's somebody else's fault. But can you just say that it's just your fault?
The third principle is one of my very favorites. It's called, there are no justified resentments. And this is a very difficult principle for many people to get, but one that I believe very strongly in. I was in a group one time of drug addicts and alcoholics. And I was one of the people that was a sponsor and leading this group. And the sign on the wall said, there are no justified resentments in this group. And what I said to that group that night was, no matter what anybody says to you here, no matter what kind of anger comes directed towards you, no matter how much hate you may encounter showing up in your life, there are no justified resentments. Meaning that if you carry around resentment inside of you about anything or about anyone, and I'm talking about the person that you lent money to and hasn't paid you back, I'm talking about the person in your life that you feel was abusive in your life, I'm talking about the person who walked out on you and left you for somebody else, I'm talking about all of the things that you have justified in your heart and in your life that you have the right to be resentful about And I'm suggesting to you that those resentments will always end up harming you and creating in you a sense of despair. I've often said that no one ever dies from a snake bite. The snake bite will never kill you. You cannot be unbitten. Once you're bitten, you're bitten. But it's the venom that continues to pour through your system after the bite that will end up destroying you. So now you have to take a look at all of the resentments that you may have in your life. And I'd like to suggest to you that I think there is a wonderful metaphor for this that I have created in my life for how to make this work. And I think that Regis Philbin is the one who's responsible for it, all right? My buddy Regis. There's a show called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire that has been popular all over the world. I'm in South Africa, it comes on, all right? I was in Australia, and they've got their own Australian version. And in Greece, they have the Greek edition of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And basically, this show has two levels that you have to get to. Now, the first level is the $1,000 level. And at the $1,000 level, you basically have to answer a question like, on your hand, you have some digits. Those digits on your hand are called your feet, your nose, your ears, your fingers. And everybody who ever goes on the show has this horrible dread that they're going to go out on one of those questions, right? So basically, in order to get to the $1,000 level, all you have to do is answer 5 pretty simple questions in order to get to the $1,000 level. Now, on this program, the $1,000 level for you in this metaphor means that you will leave with something if you get this. At least get this. This is the $1,000 level. You must send blame out of your life for any conditions of your life. Blame has to go. All right? Now, blame means if you're sitting there with a disease, you say, without guilt, it's mine, I take responsibility for it. This means that if you have been through any tough circumstances in your life, this means if you have a minimal amount of financial security in your life, this means if your children don't get along with you, this means that if your neighbors are taking up a petition to get you out of the neighborhood, whatever it might be that's going on in your life, you name it, and everybody across this great country and across this world has a series of these things that you're willing to say, I am here because of the choices that I have made right now. I'm willing to say that. Even though it's difficult, and we know it's really not your fault. We know really there's a lot of people out there who are really bad, all right? But you're willing to say no blame. That's the first level.
And I mean, I'm just like, it's just my fault. Because even if there were people in the equation that resulted in whatever, at the end of the day, God brought me here, and I have the power for it to literally be whatever I set my mind to. But until I really set my mind and just focus on that thing, then no, I'm not gonna be consistent. So that's my answer, Sister Faye.
Yes, ma'am. Sister Lorraine. Thank you, Sister Destiny.
Yes, ma'am. I can't say yes 100%, but I can say that I'm learning to be consistent. I'm actually learning how important consistency is, and follow up and follow through. Because my mind goes crazy when I say that I'm going to do something, I'm consistent with it, and then somebody else has to get involved. So that means that you're either going to get set back because you're waiting on them to do their part, or they'll do their part and then you can move forward. And that's just with business, with anything. So consistency is something that I'm actually learning to do, and really learning how important it is.
Oh, Sister Larez, you saying that? I'm sorry, just one more thing, Sister Faye. I'm consistent in the wrong areas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
I
consistent
agree.
in the negativity. Like when things the people and the reasons for why I want to be like, it's your fault. I'm consistently adding on to why things aren't moving. And so then I'm focusing my attention on the problem instead of focusing on the solution, because my mind is on the problem because I'm hurt. So then I can't do the work. So consistently my mind is over here, which is keeping me back there and not forward thinking. So I would say yes, but on the wrong thing, Sister Faith. So I
Yes,
am
ma'am.
working hard for it not to be. And that awareness piece from the start of the episode, Sister Faith, that awareness piece, inshallah, will get me, if I've learned my lesson, will get me to being consistent in the right places.
I've noticed too for this year with COVID, everything has changed. Everything has changed in how it operates, which means if I make a phone call and say that I'm requesting something or have to go online and request it, that has changed because nobody's in the office doing any work. Everybody's working from home. So now I still have to be consistent in trying to get what I need. I just can't say, oh, forget it, it's COVID. No, I still have to be consistent. And not even that, I have to try and figure out different ways of making that happen. So everything is just turned upside down, or then it might have been upside down from the beginning, and now it's right side up, but you just never know. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I would thank you both for your responses. And I would have to say I agree with Sister Destiny. Like I am I I'm so consistent that is in negativity that is second nature. It's like I don't even really at a point I didn't even think about it. But now or I believe it was Sister Destiny where you sent something from recognition. And I believe his name is Mike Murdoch. Yes. He said something along the lines of when you get tired of hearing yourself or something like that, that's when you know you're ready for a change. And I was like, praise be to Allah, you right. Go ahead. Because that is so true. You have to really get tired of hearing yourself talking about the same thing or complaining about the same thing in order to be consistent in the change that you want to see. You just have to. And I believe that that's where I am now. It is a challenge, of course. Everything is going to be a challenge when you're trying to alter your mind and do something different. It's going to be a challenge. But in order to be consistent, you just have to really be fed up and tired of whatever it is that you're fed up and tired with in order to continue to follow through. So that's what I wanted to add to that.
I just want to say, me and you, Sister Faith, need to go back to our emotional episode. I don't remember which one it was. Episode 7. We need to listen to that, and we need to read them chapters. Power
Yes,
of Thought,
ma'am.
The Power of Prayer with Sister Ava.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, and do you all have any other comments or want to share anything else? Okay, so then our last one is self-care. So how are we going to care for ourselves? It's still just going to be a follow-up from what we mentioned in terms of come on sis. So I would say that we have to do an update. So next week or the week following, if we don't have a guest, inshallah, we're going to do an update on this, and we're going to see if we have noticed any changes or if we have just if we've noticed any changes in terms of the areas that we want to see change, if we want to see growth, be consistent in those areas. And I would say for me, I'm just gonna have to jot it down so I can let y'all know, like, your sister, she was consistent this week, or your sister was so consistent. So that's what I have for self-care. Yes, ma'am. Did either of you have any other comments?
I'm sorry. Is it a question? Did I miss it, or is it that we just supposed to be giving an update?
we're going to do an update. So instead of it being a question, we already know that we have something to do in self-care this week. So next week or the following week, inshallah, we're going to come back with the update in terms of have we seen any improvement in those areas.
Okay, just in any area or?
No, in whatever area you were referring to when I mentioned self-care. I mean, come on, sis, not self-care. In any area where you said that you are not consistent in one of those areas. So you go come back and say, okay, I was consistent in this area, Sister Faith. And I'm be like, Sister Destiny and Sister Lorez, I was consistent now.
This ain't nothing but a lie. This ain't nothing but a lie because I keep writing down everything that I'm going to do and I ain't doing it. So, all right.
We have to hold ourselves accountable. Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Accountability. So we're responsible here. We gonna hold each other accountable now.
Somebody actually posted the word accountability today. Just posted the word. So that just speaks volumes. Who knows what was going on through people's mind when they read that? But when I read it, I'm like, yep, accountability, very important. Stay on track.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sister Destiny, did you you are so funny right now. Did you want to add anything?
Nothing, just the power. And if you just post one word and leave everybody else to thinking something else. But all right, I got you. I done sat back in my seat because I'm holding on to it tight, putting on my seatbelt. Like, okay, Allah, where you taking me? But yes, I'm ready. I'm accepting it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. You're going somewhere.
Well, yes, ma'am. Sister Lorez, did you want to add anything else?
Ma'am, that's it.
No? Sister Destiny, you finished? You sure you done sat back? Your mind just turning. I see it. The wheels turning.
You know what? It's God is saying, Destiny, stop writing. Do it. So I don't have anything to say because he's speaking through you right now.
Praise be to Allah. Oh, praise be to Allah. Thank you Allah for using me, honey. But that's probably inappropriate. Thank you Allah. Okay, yes, ma'am. Well, if we don't have anything else, I guess that will wrap up this episode of Black Tea. This is episode 13. Ay, Dios mío. Muy bien. We got a applause for that. Muy bien. Alrighty, well, thank you all so much for another episode of Black Tea, and inshallah, we will see you all next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.